Okay. Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight the desert, highway in the desert for our God. Prepare for the Lord's return. As I mentioned, we have the hope of one who is to come. We know it's going to be Jesus coming again on his second return. And again in Isaiah, and these were words that were written around 700 years before the birth of Jesus with his first coming. And they were being told to prepare for the Lord. Prepare a way. And all throughout the Bible, especially in the Gospels, when Jesus is here, we first start off with John the Baptist. He was the one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight the paths. And the last instructions Jesus gave to us was go and make disciples of all nations. And we're supposed to do that until he returns again. Until he comes back the second time. So how do we prepare the way for the Lord? There's several ways that can be done. And Jesus gave us the best examples. First and best way is always meet the people where they are. In other words, meet their needs. The woman at the well, she was an outcast of that society. And of society in general, but outcast in that town because of her lifestyle that they briefly touch on. Because usually going to gather water at that time around noon was extremely hot, and most people stayed inside during that time. Most of the people, when they gathered water, they would go early in the morning when it was still cool. But once it started getting hot, they stayed inside and there wasn't anybody there to help her draw the water. But Jesus talked to her and met her need for the living water. And then feeding of the 5,000. The disciples were saying, send them away, it's getting time to go eat. Send them away so they can go get something to eat. Jesus said, no, we're going to feed them. And all they had was 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. But yet on 2 different occasions, Jesus fed over 5,000 people with just a very little bit. But he met their need. And that is what we are to do. There was a meeting this week that Steve Henry did over in Lakeview. Steve Henry is the county attorney. And because of financial situations between state and coal mines and county, there's some programs that they're having to possibly scale back, maybe even cut out, because they just don't have the abilities to do it at the county level anymore. Don't have the money. And so he's looking to the churches in Webster County to step up and hopefully fill in those needs. You know, we've got the food bank that this church helps sponsors. They spoke and he gave a letter of different things that they do and how it has helped people in the community. And there are some people that if it wasn't for the food bank, they probably wouldn't have any food at all. And then another opportunity, and this is addressing seniors, but you've heard of Meals on Wheels. Give $1.50 will feed one meal. And so if you get that 5 times a week, $7.50 you'll feed them on 5 meals a week. Or if you give $30 a month. Another one is people that are on dialysis. I think you said there's like 4 in the community that need dialysis. And the only way they can get there is through the Grits transportation. But because of financing and stuff from the county, they're probably going to have to look at cutting that out. So you can either sponsor a patient, again, by $15 a day for each trip, 3 times a week, or you can volunteer to drive, and they'll even give you a county vehicle to drive the patient in, to take them to their dialysis and bring them back home. Or you can volunteer at one of the senior centers. There's one here in Providence on Monday and Tuesday. Seabury is Wednesday and Friday. And Dixon on Tuesday and Friday. You can help serve, play bingo or other games with them, provide crowds, help them with the craft project, or if you want to speak to them about something, you can. Tell jokes, stories, have a day of music. Just something to engage the seniors. And there are some seniors in the community, they're the only ones in the house, living at home. They live alone. And they have very little to no contact with somebody except for a volunteer or somebody from the county agencies that brings them by a meal, maybe once a week, or takes them to a medical appointment. And if it wasn't for those people that do this, the people they're going to see would not have any contact with anybody. And you would never know if they had a problem at home. And another thing they did, him and the PVA, Property Value Administrator, they sat down and looked at all the churches, plotted all the churches out on a map of Webster County. And then he did a 1 mile radius around each church, seeing what was there. Then he thought about 5, but then he shrunk it down to 3. This is hard to see because it's so small, but there are enough churches here in Webster County. We can service each church within a 3 mile radius of our facility. That every person in Webster County is served, and some of them they would be, because churches are so close to each other, they overlap. But they based on the 2010 population, they found out that if the churches just within a 3 mile radius around the church would go to every house and present the gospel or meet the needs, such as, do they need painting? Is there something that needs to be repaired? Or maybe a ramp built? That would greatly help. And if everybody in Webster County came to church every one of the churches should run approximately 180 in the congregation. So there's more than enough people in the county to fill every church. And as we all know, there are needs all around us. Some are because people don't reach out to anybody, or they feel they don't have the money or the resources for it. But preparing the way for the Lord, this is one way to do it. Go meet our people right around our church. Knock on their doors. And we don't have to really present the gospel to them. Just say we're the church down the road, tell them where we are. And we just want to see if there's any need you need to have met, such as stuff being built or just need somebody to talk to. And that is probably the best way to get people into church and to present the gospel, is meet them where they have a need. You go in and serve them like Jesus did at the Last Supper when he washed the disciples' feet. He was serving them. Here he was, the leader of the group, the Son of God. But yet, he got down on his hands and knees, girded up his loins to where he could do that, and washed the dirtiest part of a person's body at that time, because they just had sandals and everything was pretty well dusty and dirty, and as you're walking you stir it up. So the feet were the dirtiest things of a person, and he washed the feet. Because as one of the customs is washing the feet when they came into the house. It was to clean the dirt off, but it was also to help soothe the feet, because as we all know, especially if you don't have good, comfortable shoes on, your feet get to hurt. So, as we have the hope, and we're presenting the hope of Jesus, we are to prepare the way for Jesus. And that is going out in the community and meeting the needs of the people. Now, there are times that we won't be able to meet the need directly, but we can get them routed into somebody that can, which is still, we helped them out. We met their need. And I know it's going to be hard to do things, but even just to say, we can't do that as a church, but I can get you in touch with this person over here. And they might be able to do something. They can help. It is still a great comfort, especially if that person has been really struggling to get it done. And so, as we go out to prepare the way for Jesus to come, I'll be down here in front waiting to receive anyone. If you want to join our church, become a Christian, have a prayer request you want to mention or pray about, I'll be down here in front to receive.
Number 371.